You've wandered into Snarky Faith, the place where American Christianity gets skewered, roasted, and served cold. Faith on the fringe. Naming what's broken, keeping what matters. Strap in. This is Snarky Faith.
Previously on Snarky Faith.
Yeah, I believe that words like compassion and empathy and inclusion and love, they've been weaponized against us, especially us as women. Now,
that's not satire, but we'll get into that. Welcome to Snarky Faith. I'm Stuart Deloney, and before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take some time to talk about satire. Satire, not as comedy, not as snark, but as something closer to a survival tool. Because we're living in a moment where reality itself feels very unserious, where confidence matters more than credibility, where certainty matters more than humility, where people with the loudest voices and the simplest answers are treated like authorities, regardless of whether anything they're saying holds up. In moments like this, satire does something important. Satire isn't about being clever. It isn't about dunking on people. It's not even really about jokes. Satire takes logic of a system and pushes it one step further, far enough that you can finally see the shape of it. It's a way of saying, okay, if this is really how things work, let's go ahead and follow it to the natural conclusions and see what we end up with. And that matters right now because we're surrounded with systems that depend on us not doing that. Systems that depend on us accepting appearances instead of outcomes, certainty instead of evidence, authority instead of accountability. Satire interrupts that. It slows the moment down. It forces pattern recognition. It gives you just enough distance to realize, wait, this actually doesn't make any sense. Which brings me to Ken Ham. A little while back, I wrote a piece suggesting that Ken Ham, you know that guy, the face of American creationism? Well, yeah, I wrote a piece saying that Ken Ham might not actually be a person after all. That he might be a long-running mascot, a character, a brand. Even at this point, an AI avatar with the same 3 talking points forever. The premise of the article was intentionally stupid. It's satire. The core joke was basically, what if creationism solved its biggest problem? Human frailty. The same way every other American institution does, by automating it. What if Ken Ham was less a man and more of a mechanism? And here's the thing. Some people online thought it was real. Not listeners, not people who know my tone, just internet people who wanted to argue with me. And honestly, it wasn't frustrating. It was more illuminating because the joke wasn't Ken Ham is a robot. The joke was that if he were, nothing would actually change. The same arguments, the same certainty, the same confidence, the same fundraising machine. Satire works not because it fooled people, because it exposed how normal fake authority has become. How accustomed we are to leaders who function less like humans and more like scripts, and how little the difference there is between flesh and blood figures and brands optimized for repetition. It's not about Ken Ham specifically. He's just a convenient example. It's about a culture that rewards certainty over curiosity and treats doubt like moral failure. And satire shines a light on that being ridiculous, and that is absolutely its purpose. Now there's another layer to it. And this one's a little more personal. A lot of us are carrying religious trauma. We grew up with fear-based theology, end times obsessions, constant anxiety about being on the wrong side of God, history, and reality itself. A lot of us were handed crackpot ideas very early on and told that they were deadly serious, that questioning them was dangerous, even sinful. So satire becomes a way to breathe again, not to mock faith, not to be cruel, but to take those ideas, the rapture charts, prophecy math, spiritual surveillance, and push them to their logical conclusions until they stop being terrified and start being what they always were. Absurd. There's something deeply freeing about laughing at what once controlled you. That instinct is at the heart of The Tribulation Survival Guide. I didn't write it to predict the end of the world. I wrote it because I kept watching people I care about get pulled into fear narratives that promise certainty and only delivered anxiety. Not because they were stupid, but because the system is loud and relentless and designed to exhaust our judgment. This book uses satire to interrupt that pattern, to slow things down, to slow them down enough for discernment to come back online. This isn't about winning arguments, but it's to help people stay sane, to stay human, and to stay awake without becoming paranoid or numb. And this is why satire matters right now. It's not escapism, it's resistance. It's how you laugh at the monster without pretending it isn't real. It's how you refuse to let fear be the loudest voice in the room. I'm Stuart Deloney, and I wrote The Tribulation Survival Guide for you. It's satire and soul for these troubled times, and you should get it now. Available on Amazon. All right, with that being said, let's get into our episode today. Let's go ahead and descend down into the Jungian archetypes, where we're going to discuss the next one on our list, because it's been a little while since we had our last one. So here we go. We've been descending into the archetype thread. Think Carl Jung meets late-stage capitalism, myth, satire, with a little bit of soul work, all rolled into one. The last time we talked about the fool, and now we're on to the tower. What the fool built, the tower now burns down. I mean, you can hear it before you see it. That low groan in the stone, giving way to the southern crack like thunder splitting the sky. Then the flash, the lightning, the sound of everything you trusted collapsing under its own weight. Every civilization builds a tower. Babel, Rome, Wall Street, church. The names change, but the instinct doesn't. We build high to prove that we're untouchable. We stack ideology and ego until we can't even see the ground anymore. But the tower always falls. And it's not tragedy, it's inevitability. In the tarot, the card shows lightning striking a crown spire, people plummeting from the windows, flames leap towards the heavens. And it looks like chaos, but it's really revelation. It's truth breaking through the illusion. It's God. It's karma. It's the laws of physics. Take your pick. But it's saying, finally, enough. And if you listen closely, you can hear it happening again. In Jungian terms, the tower is the collapse of the false self, the dismantling of whatever illusion we built to keep us safe. The ego, the ideology, the identity that whispers, we are in control. The tower doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your brand, your theology, your carefully crafted, curated feed. It's the crack of truth in the facade. The moment you realize the story you built your life on was never real. It was just marketing. The tower is the divine side-eye, the cosmic intervention that says, you mistook the scaffolding for the structure. Spiritually, it's the fall of Babel. Psychologically, it's the breakdown before the breakthrough. Socially, it's what happens when the system that promised salvation starts billing you for the apocalypse. And collectively, we're living mid-collapse. Now, the fool ruled for a while, juggling chaos, tweeting policy, turning tragedy into slapstick. But the fool's reign always ends the same way. Poof, up in smoke. The tower is his inheritance. You can see it in the headlines. Churches hemorrhaging members faster than priests can say, trust me. The Supreme Court making theology sound like jurisprudence. And billionaires buying up free speech like it's beachfront property. Every pillar we built our certainty on is collapsing. Evangelicalism crumbling under the weight of its own corruption. The SBC calling felonies moral failures now. Megachurch pastors caught laundering pain into profit. Worship music sounds like spiritual meth. The tower lights another floor. Now, politics. One half of the country prays for fascism because it looks familiar. The other half scrolls itself into paralysis. Institutions of democracy gutted by spectacle. Law twisted into weapon. Justice bartered for clicks. We keep calling it polarization, but it is not polarization. It's collapse. It's the tower. And the collapse isn't limited to pulpits or politics. It is everywhere. The economy is a Jenga tower of debt, speculation, and wishful thinking, one tremor away from gravity. Climate systems are groaning under our own delusions of dominion, cities drowning while politics argue about metaphors. And even our attention spans are collapsing, minds wired for outrage, souls exhausted by endless scroll. The tower isn't one building, it's an entire skyline. Technology was supposed to liberate us, but now our devices own our rituals. The new Babel is built out of code. Silicon Valley promising transcendence while selling addiction. Every algorithm another brick in the tower of self-worship. AI prophets proclaim salvation through optimization. Crypto kings preach decentralization while hoarding wealth like dragons. And we keep mistaking innovation for evolution. The truth is simpler. The gods of progress are eating their priests, and yet we act surprised, as if collapse is abnormal, as if history doesn't show every empire eventually forgets humility, worships itself, and then topples on its own height. Every lie demands a reckoning, and we're living in the thunder. But there's a strange mercy to it. The tower only falls when the illusion has outlived its usefulness. It's not destruction for destruction's sake. It's the world clearing its throat. The lightning isn't wrath, it's clarity. And here's the thing about the tower. It's not just out there, it's in us. We all built towers of belief, of identity, of control. I spent years building mine. Faith has certainty, ministry has purpose, and illusion that if it worked hard enough, and I believed hard enough and served long enough, the world would finally make sense, right? Then the lightning came. Burnout, disillusionment. Watching the faith I loved morph into a cult of fear, hate, and nostalgia. Watching friends sell their souls for a platform, watching my own certainty crack like drywall in an earthquake. The tower fell. And for a while, I mistook that for failure. I thought, if this is faith collapsing, what is left? But the tower doesn't take truth. It takes the illusion. It clears the skyline. That's the brutal grace of collapse. It makes space for something real. It teaches you that sometimes God doesn't live in the temple. He's in the fire outside of it. And maybe that's what deconstruction really is. Not trendy heresy, but tower maintenance. It's the sacred demolition of the lies that we were told to worship. The tower isn't asking, do you still believe? It's asking, now that the scaffolding's gone, what do you actually believe in? Every civilization, every church, every soul hits its tower moment. The lightning comes, the illusions burn, and we're left standing in the rubble, blinking in the light of what's real. The tower teaches that endings are the price of awakening. The fool gave us chaos, the tower gives us clarity, and at least if we have the courage to look for it, we can see it. We can mourn what's fallen, the institutions, the leaders, the illusions, and we should. But we can't rebuild with the same blueprints that betrayed us. The smoke will clear eventually. It always does. And what is left afterwards is that raw, silent, honest, that kind of quiet feeling that feels like grief at first, but later it sounds like peace. And you start hearing the birds again. You start to notice the ground. You realize maybe the sky was always meant to be this visible. And that is the invitation after collapse, to rebuild smaller, slower, humbler, to remember that foundations matter more than facades, and that love holds longer than control, and that faith built low to the ground actually survives the storm. The fool entertained us, the tower sobers us, and the question that lingers isn't can we rebuild, it's should we rebuild everything that was lost. Maybe holiness isn't in the height, but in the humility. So here's my benediction. May the towers fall quickly and the rebuilding be honest. May the lightning reveal what's true instead of what's tall. And may we stop mistaking collapse for failure. Sometimes it's just the sound of truth setting itself free. Amen. Oh man. And fuck this. Be well, or be as well as you can. Well, thanks so much for listening to Snarky Faith. I know the world may be crazy, and oftentimes it feels like the finale may be near. But I'm here to give you hope. Hope for the end times. Hope for that coming tribulation. That's right, the Tribulation Survival Guide, your field manual for when faith meets fallout. The Tribulation Survival Guide, how to stay alive when everything else is dead. Be prepared and stay tuned.
The end times are upon us. The signs are happening. The end is near, but don't panic. You may have missed the rapture, but there's still time to prepare for what comes next. Disasters, plagues, celestial malfunctions. Consider them friendly reminders. Now's the time to prepare. From homemade hazmat suits to heavenly currency and trustworthy prophets, this guide has you covered. Because when the heavens open and the world melts, belief alone won't save you. The Tribulation Survival Guide. How to stay alive when everything else is dead. Available now.